Another successful cruise missile test over northern Canada. A St. Albert infant is in critical but stable condition with a new heart. The markets are up again, but analysts say the worst is not over yet. And a vicious stick attack sidelines Thomas Sandstrom. Good afternoon. A U.S. Air Force B-52 bomber has landed in northern Alberta this hour. The bomber carried an unarmed cruise missile. It lifted off from Spokane, Washington early this morning to test a new guidance system. The route took the cruise from the Beaufort Sea over the Northwest Territories to Canadian Forces Base Cold Lake. Protesters, meanwhile, are gathering at the Alberta Legislature to protest against the test. That demonstration is expected to last about an hour. The stock markets appear to have settled down a bit today. New York and Toronto are up on the day after an initial surge as trading opened. It slowed down, and traders are reporting a relative calm is pervading. Shortly before the close, the Dow Jones was running at 1,820.62. That's up 26.69 points for the day. In Toronto, the TSE Composite Index was also up for the day. It was at 2883.1, again shortly before the close. The upswing on the markets today appears to have begun in Asia. Both the Tokyo and the Hong Kong exchanges were up in the day's trading. In Tokyo, one broker claimed the Japanese market is now leading Wall Street. There were reports that major Japanese institutional investors were responding to a call from the finance department to support the stock market by buying. The Hong Kong exchange, meanwhile, managed to reclaim some of the ground lost in yesterday's drop. The government there announced measures to shore up confidence in the stock market. And the London Stock Exchange posted a modest recovery today, up 2%. That still leaves it down 4% on the week. The troubles on the stock markets have come at an interesting time for the London financial community. It was 1 year ago that the markets were deregulated in a move called the Big Bang. Some are now questioning whether that was such a good idea.
Traders in London could at least relax a little with the steady opening they saw to Tuesday's trading, but they're still too nervous to start celebrating in a week which could have turned into a big birthday party. For London's Big Bang is now a year old, an anniversary marked less by candlelighting than by anxious staring into computer screens. Big Bang's first year did much of what it set out to do. London strode firmly into the major leagues of international finance, deregulating its trading charges, letting foreigners into the game, and shifting the locus of business off its old-style trading floor and into the somber face of a computer network that now reaches every trading firm. Thus, while New York looked like this during the crash of the last few days, London's old floor has been devoid of drama, which this week could only be found in the trading rooms and in the faces of the console-bound. But the new system's overseers will not abide anyone blaming Big Bang for the market bust.
I think I can say to you today that it's been an unqualified success. Not only has more capital been raised for British industry in the last year than ever before, but also more overseas companies have raised equity capital through London than ever before.
But Big Bang has shed some financial blood over the last year. Some banks that jumped into the melee at the start have now been forced out by competition. And the legions of youth notoriously well paid to navigate the market's nastier shoals have found their salaries shrinking and their own numbers dropping as firms like Shearson Lehman have begun layoffs looking to cut costs.
Speaking from the individual's perspective, I think there are very few who were in the city in the old days and are now here who would tell you that they wouldn't much prefer the old system. It was much cozier.
Now Big Bang may become a pair of dirty words to small investors who jumped into the market this year, encouraged by Big Bang's go-go atmosphere.
In fact, Big Bang's birthday could be soured even more by one of the largest sell offers in history due to take place here this week. Margaret Thatcher is selling off the government's last chunk of British petroleum to the public. But financial firms with a stake in the deal are terrified that the public will not be buying, and they're urging Thatcher to call off the sale. John Donvan, CNN, London.
Husky Oil wants to do some buying, and Dome Petroleum may be on the list of possible acquisition targets. Husky President Art Price says Dome is just one of a number of companies his firm is looking at purchasing. Dome was supposed to be bought by Amoco, but that deal has yet to be finalized. Some Dome shareholders and creditors don't like what Amoco is offering. Price says Husky will decide within the next 3 weeks whether it wants to counter Amoco's offer for Dome. Canadians find out today just how well the federal government has been spending our tax dollars over the past year. Auditor General Kenneth Dye will present his annual report to the House of Commons. In his last 3 reports, Dye concentrated on the spending problems of the former Liberal government. In today's report, he's expected to focus on Tory spending habits. There were no major incidents in the Persian Gulf over the last couple of days to report, but that doesn't mean anyone over there is relaxing. Reports out of Iran indicate that hardliners in that country are pushing for an all-out war against the United States. Caught in the middle of the trouble are the supertankers hauling the oil out of the region. Some shipping companies are now employing security specialists aboard their vessels. We get details on that in this report.
In the Sea of Oman, just outside the Gulf, the crew of a small tanker is drilled on emergency procedures in case their ship comes under attack.
When you hold that thing, you want to hold it up more, yeah? Push that into the side and train it, yeah?
Something as simple as regular fire drills can save lives along the 550-mile gauntlet of missiles, mines, and speedboats in the Gulf. Nearly 400 vessels have been attacked and scores of seamen killed in the last 7 years. Those raids are up sharply, and ship owners and crews are looking desperately for ways to protect themselves. A company called Defense Analysts, made up almost entirely of British air and naval veterans from the Falklands War, has stepped in to fill the need. For a fee, the company puts an experienced combat veteran aboard a commercial ship who literally takes over security.
When a crisis occurs, he's there, he stays calm, he doesn't panic, and he makes sure that the engineers and crew do the right things at the right time.
Defense analysts believe that every ship has some natural defense that can be enhanced. The key is understanding what you're up against.
Basically, we've got 2 threats. One is the gunboats, and the second one is the mines.
The specialist has comprehensive intelligence information from previous attacks. For security reasons, he remains nameless, and his face cannot be shown in this report. The service is expensive, but the cost is offset by what a ship owner can save on insurance. It also raises morale.
Sometimes the masters of the ships and the crew are a bit suspicious about this strange man coming on board to assist them. But usually within 2 days of entering the Gulf, that suspicion has gone and morale goes way up, sky high.
Captains and crews familiar with the service agree.
I heard a few things which I've never heard before.
Nothing can guarantee you won't come under attack, but the advice of combat veterans may offer the only security civilian oil tankers and cargo ships have in these waters today. Jim Clancy, CNN, The Gulf.
Baby Mitchell Boyd remains in critical but stable condition this afternoon in Loma Linda Medical Center in California. The 12-day-old St. Albert infant received a heart transplant in a 5-hour operation yesterday. A spokesman at the California hospital says it's a wait-and-see situation right now. Another infant received the same surgery less than 2 weeks ago and is now listed in fair condition. Doctors are hoping baby Mitchell's recovery will be as successful.
Well, you know, baby Paul had his heart transplanted just a little over a week and a half ago, and he's up to fair condition now. So it just depends on the baby and if there's any signs of rejection or infection, and we just hope for the best.
Is there a time frame that you're looking at for him to pull out of it? I mean, is there normally when there's a heart transplant, what kind of time frame are we looking at?
Well, I would say a good couple weeks. It just depends on how well he adapts to the heart that was given to him.
Baby Mitchell was born with an underdeveloped heart and was not expected to survive past 2 days, but the child has hung on. The Alberta government has now announced it will pay the cost of the operation. Mitchell's parents, Bob and Lee Boyd, are in California at their son's side. It's not known where the donor heart was found. Despite the precarious position of this Honda Civic, there were no injuries from a single car accident this morning on Scone Hill. The car evidently hit a curb and flipped over near the old-timers cabin just before 9 a.m. The incident is under investigation. Charges may be laid. City police are searching for a man who went on a shooting rampage at a downtown restaurant early this morning. At around 5 a.m., a man was thrown out of Arizona Pizza and then apparently returned a short time later with a shotgun. The owner says the man blew out the windows of the business and wrecked the interior. The staff and about 20 customers hid under tables while all of this was going on. Police responded a short time later, but the suspect had already fled the scene. Damage has been repaired, but the business remains closed. Police described the gunman as native, between 5'10" and 6 foot tall, with long black hair. He had a cut on his forehead and was wearing a white T-shirt.
Give me food. I refused to give him food and drink and everything. Then he started arguing with the employees. And after that, I kick him out with employees, and after that he come back half an hour, and he got guns, and he shot the door and broke the glass, and he got in and tried to kill all the employees. Then I went downstairs, the basement, I called police.
If you could design your dream home, what sort of features would you want? Well, a builder in New Jersey asked a group of working women to suggest what their dream home would look like. Architects and construction crews then went to work and produced a pretty interesting home.
Charlotte Garino is a career woman who has a pet peeve about closets. You know, the kind that are crammed with clothes.
Changing the season from winter to summer. And I thought, on a whim, I said, gee, wouldn't it be nice if they had an electronic closet?
And presto.
This is the summer wardrobe. Let me get the winter one.
The revolving rack is just one of the suggestions that a New Jersey builder built into what's been dubbed the working woman's dream house. It contrasts with this model home, built nearly 2 decades ago by the same company. Back then, the women surveyed asked for things like a room where mom could retreat to her sewing or hobbies. Now that has given way to the working woman's request for an office at home. No longer do women yearn for ornate chandeliers that require loving care. Instead, they opt for ceiling lights that you don't have to dust. They want a walk-in pantry that holds enough supplies so they don't have to go shopping once a week. Working women want a bath with more room, a whirlpool, a master bedroom that makes them feel like the mistress. They want higher ceilings, more light.
Who washes these windows for the working woman?
Unfortunately, the dreams of the working women surveyed didn't all come true.
They asked for self-cleaning windows, and we haven't found those yet.
What else?
Warm toilet seats, which we didn't come up with that either.
Scarborough Corporation says that 72% of home buyers in higher price ranges are working couples, and more often than not, it's the wife who actually picks the home. 15 working women chosen by the Cherry Hill Chamber of Commerce made the recommendations that were incorporated into the model home.
But it's about time that they've taken the woman into consideration.
You'd probably have to be a working woman to afford the working woman's dream house. It sells for $235,000, and no, that does not include the rotating closet. The rack is an option that costs an extra $4,000.
Push the button.
Oh, look. Oh, look at that.
Finally, working women are out of the closet. Jeannie Moe, CNN, Voorhees Township, New Jersey.
Well, there could finally be some good news in the Paul Coffey saga.
Well, it certainly couldn't get any worse from the Oilers' standpoint or for Paul Coffey's standpoint, sitting in Toronto and not playing hockey at all. You can add another chapter to the Coffey saga with the possibility, when all is written, the story could end on a happy note. For the first time since Coffey walked out September 23rd, he met with Glenn Sather and Peter Pocklington face-to-face yesterday in Toronto for about 1 hour. Now, apparently everything went so smooth, they plan to do the same thing again today. So all signs seem to point at Coffey rejoining the club in the near future. But he won't be in the lineup tonight when the Oilers invade Quebec City looking for their 6th consecutive win. By the way, if you haven't heard, Wayne Gretzky has been named the NHL Player of the Week. 2 games in the National Hockey League last night. Calgary over Montreal 5-3, and the Flyers and Rangers play to a 2-2 tie. Ron Hextall stopping over 40 shots in his first game back since being suspended for bushwhacking Kent Nielsen in the playoffs last year. And speaking of bushwhacking, we go to Madison Square Garden last night early or late in the 3rd period. Watch Thomas Sandstrom in front of the net, and a resident goon, Dave Brown, comes in with a vicious cross-check to the head. Sudstrom goes down in a heap with a possible fractured jaw. He suffered a mild concussion regardless. Now, Brown has already been suspended twice in his penalty-filled career, and this should be the hat trick, although knowing Brian O'Neill and company, it could mean just a $50 fine. He got a 5-minute major and a match for attempt to injure. The attempt obviously successful. We haven't heard any word on Sandstrom today, though. It was a Monday night football doubleheader, thanks in part to the Minnesota Twins, who used the Metrodome Sunday to win the World Series, forcing the Vikings and the Broncos to play last night, the Vikings winning easily over the Broncos. The regularly scheduled game featured the Los Angeles Rams and the Browns. The Browns will go up 10-0 in the 2nd quarter when Bernie Kosar hands off to Kevin Mack, as in Mack Truck, who runs through and over people for the major score, 10-0 in the 2nd quarter. And the Browns would add to their score when Jim Everett goes back to pass. And he'll be picked off by former CFLer, former Hamilton Ticat, Felix Wright. Wright had 2 interceptions on the night. This one he would take back 40 yards into the end zone with a touchdown, making it 17-0 Cleveland. Now, Eric Dickerson wasn't expected to play much last night, and he didn't because of his contract hassles, but he made an appearance late in the second quarter. He rambled in for the major score, making it 27 Cleveland. But Bernie Kosar would get that back, and then some, going up top to Brian Brennan, 53 yards for the touchdown. The Browns winning 30-17. The Rams dropping to 1-5.
We played pretty well today. Obviously, we had a few mistakes, but the main thing was we played a good, solid game as a team and made some big plays offensively and defensively when we needed to.
With the Olympics being staged in our own backyard, no doubt our Canadian downhillers are feeling a little more pressure than usual to perform well. Kathy Renwald has this report.
There was a sense of optimism and expectancy when members of the men's and women's national ski teams gathered in Toronto today. Laurie Graham has been the most consistent winner on the ski scene since the men's team was depleted of all its top skiers. Graham is a legitimate medal contender at the Calgary Olympics, one of the few Canadians in that position. But she also wants to dominate in the World Cup.
We got a lot of World Cups, 9 World Cups this year. And also I noticed we're already planning after the Olympics too. Like you don't fall off the end of the world in February. You know, we've got 3 more downhills after that, and I'm striving for the World Cup title this year again, and I'm within range for that. And so the Olympics is the high point of the season and of my career, but it's still only one race.
The men's team looks eager and bright, but also inexperienced. Rob Boyd won his first downhill at Val Gardena last year and accepts his role as pioneer of a fresh regime.
With my win, everyone else kind of went, holy, well, you know,